What's up, party people? It's your boy Quaz. Another show for you. Oh man, excuse me, tired. Just waking up. Saturday morning, about 10 o'clock right now, and just getting ready for day full of college football games. I was gonna do the podcast last night. I was just too damn tired. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it early in the morning, get the spreads in before the game start. So here it is. Welcome everybody to the show. I am your host, Quazemoto. Um, I was looking at the spreads for the games today. Um, not, it's I always go off of College Game Day, right? The ESPN show, and if they're it's going to be a big day of games when they're at a big school like Alabama, Michigan, or whatnot. But today they're at James Madison University, right here in Virginia. I think it's down in Harrisonburg, down on Highway 81. Um, but it's like Harrisonburg against Richmond University. So it's like a slow week when game days coming to some D2 or D3 school just to show them some love, right? um, Funny thing is, I was listening to the local radios on Friday and the sports radio shows, and one of the shows they were all geeked up that game day was coming to JMU, and they're like, "Well, we got to get some signs on the show. We got to get some signs on the show." So, because game day, they're notorious for having all these, all the students and the audience in the crowd holding up all these signs and whatnot. So, once I get done with the podcast show, I'm gonna go turn on that game day, see if any of the radio show signs get on the air. A couple of the games that I'm looking at today, locally, we got Penn State, Maryland. Penn State's getting 6.5, and I buy that, you know. But here's the deal. A lot of listeners have been emailing saying, "Hey, man, your picks are, your picks are horrible, dude. What the fuck?" Look, there's winning streaks and there's dry spells. Right now, I'm on a dry spell, so take it for what you want. Here's what you can do. If you've been taking my picks and losing, do the opposite. Take my picks. Like say if I'm today like Penn State, Maryland. I'm leaning towards Penn State taking the 6.5 because I think Penn State's going to win pretty big. Um, Take Maryland on the under. Take Maryland to cover. Keep it close, and Maryland wins under 6. Take the under. Maryland and the under. If you don't like my picks, do the opposite and pick the opposite of what I select. But it is what it is. I like Penn State to win and win big against the Terps. Um, Virginia and North Carolina, I don't really care, but I do like Duke taking a +3 against Virginia Tech. That should be a great, I always like, past couple of years, I always like Duke, simply because they've surprised a lot of teams, a lot of schools, and I've liked them personally because I put a couple, made a couple bets on them, and they were able to cover. So yeah, give the Dukies, the football team, some love. Basketball team's another story, but oh well. That's for another podcast. Indiana, Michigan State. Michigan State's getting 15.5. Take Indiana take Indiana and the points. I don't think Michigan State has a lot left in them, especially after that emotional win against Michigan last Saturday. I think Michigan State's going to win, by maybe 7 or 10 points. Definitely not 15. It's not going to be a blowout. Oklahoma's getting 14 over Texas Tech. I like Oklahoma to cover on that. And then you got Oklahoma State 34 over Kansas. I don't care. But you do have Alabama getting 15.5 over Tennessee. Take that. Alabama's just going to crush Tennessee. Other games, of significant importance. I don't think there are many. You know, the rest are just poo-poo teams. You got, I mean, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Florida State getting 6.5. Yeah, they'll do that. They'll cover. Western LSU, 15.5, visiting Western Kentucky. Looks pretty good. Why not? The one that I really like, take Utah. Utah is playing USC in LA at the Coliseum. Utah's the underdog. You know, they're getting plus 3.5. Take it. I think Utah's going to win and win big. You know, it's not going to be that close. Ohio State's getting, number one, Ohio State's getting 21 over Rutgers. Visiting uh, Ohio State going into Rutgers. I don't think so. Take Rutgers on the under. Ohio State's going to win, but they're not going to win by 21. That's for sure, you know. Um, couple of the stories coming out. Ohio State's going with Barrett Jackson or whatever the fuck his name is instead of Cardale Jones as quarterback. Well, I just want Ohio State to lose, and they're going to lose eventually. You know, there's such a big target on their back. There's no way they're going to go undefeated this season, and they're going to lose once, if not twice. They're going to lose to Michigan State, and they might lose to Michigan as well. And I just don't want them in the playoffs. Last year was such a fluke that they got into the playoffs, number one, you know, and number two, if they get into the playoffs, I hated that. But winning it, they deserved it. You know, if you can beat Alabama and then Oregon, you deserve to win it. But I don't think they should have been in the playoffs to begin with. Knowing my background, I'm not a big Ohio State fan. Never really loved the Buckeyes, and I loved it when my Gators crushed them in the championship game a couple of years back. That was when you had Chris Leak still at quarterback. Remember him? Yeah, right. Um, a lot of people saying Alabama is coming on strong, but yo, they lost. You got a bunch of other undefeated teams. I just hope that an undefeated team, much like last year, like a team like Baylor, a team like TCU, a team like Louisiana State, they're going to get hosed, you know, just because Alabama is more of a brand name team and they're going to get into the playoffs. I don't think Alabama deserves it. I think, you know, and, you know, say like you have a scenario like all of them, no one goes undefeated. You know who's going to get in? Alabama, just because of name recognition, right? What if Florida, you know, my beloved Gators, they're, you know, one loss team. You know, what if LSU's a one loss team? Ohio State's a one loss team. Baylor, you know, TCU, they're all one loss teams. Michigan State, well, you know, goes one loss, you know. Then it's gonna get interesting. Who gets in and who doesn't, right? And don't be surprised if that commission, you know, those geniuses that lock themselves in that conference room, you know, they decide to hose someone again. There's gonna be an undefeated team. There's going to be a Baylor, there's going to be, you know, a TCU, there's going to be an LSU that's going to get hosed, you know, just because, you know, the committee wants popular travel well teams, you know. I always put that in parentheses, teams that travel well. They want those teams to make it into the playoffs, you know. So a one-loss team like Ohio State or an Alabama is going to get in over a less popular one-loss team like a Michigan State, like a Florida Gators, which aren't up right now. Maybe like a LSU if they lose, because LSU is playing Alabama. That's going to be a showdown. It's coming, and you know, it'll be interesting. It's still way too early. You know, even the first the first projection of the years haven't even come out yet. You know, so it's way too early to, you know, go over scenarios like that. But I just don't want to see a deserving team get hosed, right? Um, uh, Other than that, NFL games that we got, Buffalo Jacksonville. This one's being played in jolly old London, England. If you guys have seen the trend, Jacksonville's been playing in these London games almost on an annual basis now. It's because Jacksonville's going to move to London. It's going to happen. Because currently, you know, the Jaguars, they're not doing shit in Jacksonville. No one shows up. It's a bad quality team in a bad city, you know, let's be honest. And the owner, Shahid Khan, you know, he's a businessman, first and foremost. All of these owners, they're businessmen, and they're successful businessmen. So they're like, you know, if I can make more money taking my team to London, I'm going to do that. And so don't be surprised if Jacksonville goes to, relocates to London in the next year or two. But I do like Buffalo beating Jacksonville. Yeah, I know I picked Jacksonville as my surprise team of the year at the beginning of the season, but oh well, right? Then you got Tampa Bay visiting Washington. Washington's getting 3.5. Um, the controversy, or not even controversy, like the big hubbub uh, the Sunday and all this week was like, Coach John Gruden was like, this is a code red, right? And he got a lot of, flack for saying code red. Like, this is a must-win game for the Redskins. And it kind of is, because Gruden's season's on the line, and as is Kirk Cousins' position as a starter on the team is on the line, and I was like following these, sub stories, especially for the Redskins, because they're such a drama team, for a team that stinks so bad, they got so much drama surrounding them each and every year. I hope they lose, and I hope the team just spins in a downward spiral, burns out, such in a dramatic fashion. It'd be so awesome. I'm gonna take Tampa just because I hate the Redskins. You got Atlanta, Tennessee. I like Atlanta that one. Cleveland, St. Louis. I like St. Louis with the 6. Jets in England. You know what? I am gonna take the Jets in this one. This is my upset special of the week, just because the last all of these meetings between Jets and Patriots have been close. They won by it's always been like a field goal, 7-point victory. And I'm gonna, Jets are very strong. I like Todd Bowles, the new head coach, and Jets are looking very strong this year, and they have surprised a lot of people, and they're gonna surprise a lot of people, and they're gonna surprise a lot of people this Sunday by beating the Patriots. So that's my upset special of the week. Other games are really poo-poo games that I really don't care about. I mean, you got Pittsburgh, Kansas City, don't care. New Orleans, Indianapolis, I don't care. Oakland, San Diego. If I can watch that, I love watching West Coast games because they're just so much fun to watch. But I definitely take San Diego on that one. Dallas and the Giants. I think that's gonna be the highlight game. I'm gonna pick Dallas upset special over the Giants. I think Des Bryant might play. That's the rumor. So it'd be great if he could, And then you got Philly, Carolina. That's actually gonna be a very good game, and I like Carolina in that one. Take them. So there you have it. Those are my picks. If you don't like my picks and I haven't made you money, take the opposite. Do the take the opposite of what I pick. We got Hurricane. If anyone hasn't known about this, we got Hurricane Patricia. This is like a category, 25 hurricane coming in from the Pacific. That's currently slamming western parts of Mexico. It got sustained 200 miles per hour winds. They measured it. They told Hurricane Patricia, "Hey, would you mind just standing up here against the wall right here while we measure your wind for real quick?" I always find that interesting when, I hear, they measured the winds at, 200 miles. I'm like, how do you measure that? Do you ask the hurricane, "Hey, do you mind if we measure you real quick?" That's always funny how they word a lot of things, But the other thing that I was listening to the weather report, and they're asking, is this hurricane ever going to get to the East Coast? And, my dumbass, I was thinking, how does, the hurricane, it can't get to the, how's it going to travel over land? It's a fucking hurricane. But I'm like, duh, weather travels, right? Even if a front, from the north or south, pushes that hurricane, we could get it. So, your boy just being a dumbass, I think we might see the trickle effect, have a couple of, rainy days, Wednesday or Thursday next week. That's just your boy being dumb again, Lincoln Chafee, he drops out of the Democratic presidential race, and who cares? Along with Jim Webb, who cares? They had such a horrible showing on the debate. That is a good reason, very good reason they dropped out. Chafee was just a dildo on the stage, and as was Webb. I served in Vietnam. Yeah, vote for me. Jim Webb. you know, those two dildos. They just need to stay home. The other news was Vice President Joe Biden decided not to run. Good reason to. He just didn't have the momentum. So it's down to Hillary and Bernie Sanders, and it should be interesting. But I think ultimately Clinton has the more um, organized and well polished campaign. So it's gonna be no surprise. Hillary's gonna run away with it in the primaries coming up in January and February, March, leading up to the Democratic convention in June, July, whenever it happens. A couple of other stories. Lamar Odam, if you guys have been listening or following to that, he was the one that passed out in the brothel outside of Las Vegas. Terrible story that, he was like, drugs, alcohol, Viagra, whatnot was involved with it. But, his condition was critical. And when he was in the hospital in LA, not in LA, Las Vegas, a bunch of his family members came out to see how he's doing and support him and whatnot. The Kardashians came out. Those fucking camera hogs, man. I hate the Kardashians. And now I wouldn't be surprised if the Kardashians say, hey, look, we can film this a lot better if we move them out to L.A. And plus, we want to go home. We don't want to be in L.A. anymore. Fucking Kardashians. Kevin Hart, he had a good zing about the Kardashians. They're like, the Kardashians, they turned, the guy Scott, who's married to Khloe, they turned him into an alcoholic. They turned Bruce Jenner into a woman. And now they're going to go ahead and kill off Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom. I thought that was funny as hell. God damn it. I'm hitting the 17-minute mark. I really got to figure out a way to extend these PDs. But I'm going to leave you on this. I'm going to leave a question for all my listeners. Who would you pick? And this is guys as well as girls, if you swing that way. Beyonce or Alicia Keys? And I'm going to just discuss and dissect that on Monday's show. Who would you pick to tap, to bang, to, have a midnight tryst with? If they were ready and available, they're in a hotel room saying, let's go. But you can only pick one, Beyonce or Alicia Keys. I'll leave you with that. Later, boys and girls.